What is up, everybody, and welcome to another Webinar Wednesday. I got my boy Ronnie with me today, and we're going to be talking about overcoming objections when you're talking to sellers and stuff. So before we get into that, though, Ronnie, how's it going, my man?
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. I'm happy.
That's good. That's good. So I'm glad to see that you're happy, because it's always when you had the situation today where a seller kind of freaked out on you and kind of trying to back out of a deal and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm glad to see you're still smiling. Everything's going okay. But that's what happens in this business, right?
It's the business. It's the business. On to the next one.
So very good, very good. So what Ronnie and I are going to talk about today is just overcoming objections, those things that kind of make your make your seller seem uneasy, the things that pop up that make them, kind of, you can call them deal killers, objections, things that they say that kind of hold them back a little bit from making that deal. So, and this is going to be kind of a little bit unique. So this is going to be kind of a two-part thing of what's going on here. So we're going to kind of do an outline, kind of an overview of objections, some of the top ones that we see kind of in the business today. We'll roll through those, kind of how we deal with them in general and things like that. And then basically next week, so I am going to be out of town next week at one of our masterminds. So we are not going to be able to go live next Wednesday at 3:30. But what we're going to do is Ronnie and I are going to prepare a bunch of different scenarios. So we're going to kind of roll through some of these objections. We're going to do a little role playing and stuff like that. We're going to record them. And then we're going to just kind of put these out, though, throughout the day next Wednesday. So we won't have a live thing, but hopefully you guys will have some videos that will play throughout the day on our in the Facebook group, so you can kind of see how we handle some of these objections where, I'm the seller, Ronnie's the buyer, vice versa, and things like that. So hopefully that'll help you out as well as we do a follow-up to kind of what's going on here. So, all right, so good stuff, good stuff. So Ronnie, before we even get into it, so I kind of came up with a list of just some objections and stuff like that right now. But before we even get into that, so when we're talking about objections that sellers have, what's kind of the tone, I guess, before we get into that? Like, what's the tone that usually sellers come across when some of these things pop up and they just kind of get a little uneasiness and that type of stuff, my man?
I mean, the tone that we're hearing, it is one of insecurity, one of kind of nervousness, most definitely, and then just really kind of unsure of what's around the corner, because maybe this is their first time doing this, and so maybe they need a little hurdle help. That's normally kind of what we're seeing. Definitely, with all the different COVID-19, all that different stuff going on. There's a lot of different just concerns about, how will this work? What if it doesn't work? It's kind of inquisitive, and they more so need their hands kind of held through the process for the most part. Yes, there's people that just want more money, but that's an easy solve. But it's some of those other parameters that we need to kind of help walk through and just give them security on is what the tone normally is.
So, no, very cool, very cool. So I kind of came up with a list of, talking to our acquisition guys, talking to some other people in the industry and things like that. So I kind of came up with a list of some of the top ones that we're hearing right now. So the number one is always, I want more money. Right. So that's always the number one. That's, you're always going to get that stuff like that. But honestly, I view that, just like Ronnie said, that's kind of an easy one to deal with, because you gotta figure out, like, kind of, hey, here's where I am with my numbers. So explain that to them and stuff. And everybody always wants more money. So I always want to buy properties for less. They always want me to pay more. That's always going to happen. So that's always going to be an objection. But, some of the other ones are just like, why should I choose you to sell to over, somebody else that I got their mailer, or where I talked to them, or they're going to come look at my house. So why you over them? Another one is just where I don't know what I'm going to do after I sell my house. I don't know where I'm going to move. I don't know where I'm going to go next. So that type of thing. And then another one, just I have multiple offers. So there's a lot of people that are interested in my house. So I want to shop it around. I want to wait to see who has the highest offer. I want to see, what people can give me, that type of thing. So another one is just like, I need to talk to whoever the other decision maker is. I need to talk to the husband or wife or aunt or my lawyer, my realtor, my kid, my whoever. So need to talk to those other people, those other decision makers, that type of thing. So needing to talk to them, kind of along the same lines of, like, one of the big ones here is like, oh, I need to talk to my realtor friend, or my realtor friend thinks I should list it. That's always a big one that I think people get to. Maybe they have a tenant in the house. They don't want to disturb the tenant, or I would love to sell my house, but I don't want the tenant to know that I'm going to sell my house. That type of thing. So that's an objection that you might hear. Another one, just have maybe they have an offer from an investor that is completely, it's unrealistic, but through that conversation, that it's unrealistic, and there's probably more than likely that investor is going to try to renegotiate with them at some point. So kind of this is kind of a forward-thinking objection, I guess, that they have another offer on the table, that it's a little bit unrealistic, but in your head, like, hey, this is what's going to happen. So setting them up for kind of what they can prepare for. And then another popular one was just, I need time to think about it. Maybe they called you and you're like, oh, I can come look at it tomorrow. I can give you an offer tomorrow. And maybe it's moving too fast for what they really expected. You're going to have people that want things that happen super fast, but you're also going to have people that maybe that scares them away. Like, man, I just need time to think about it. Or I didn't realize you were going to give me an offer like at the door. So I just, I need time to pray about it. I need time to think about it, that type of thing. So maybe things are moving too fast. And then, another popular one is that, I have to send me the paperwork and I'll have my attorney look at it. I don't think a lot of them have attorneys really, but that's what they want to say. They want that. That's kind of their thing to say, hey, I need more time, or I need to show this around. And some of them do have the attorneys that, attorneys can definitely kind of get involved and sometimes, hold deals back as well. So being able to deal with that. So Ronnie, with that list that I kind of came up with as I jotted through that, man, is there anything else that like stands out to you or from that list, or is there any ones that maybe I missed that you're kind of thinking of that you're hearing?
No, I mean, you really covered, a lot of the most common objections. One of the ones that we've been dealing with here lately is, I want to sell my house, but where am I going to go next? Because the market is hot, competition is fierce. So it's easy to sell a house. The question is, okay, well, where are we going to go? Are we going to go to an apartment? Or going to live with family members? Can I line up and get another house in this competitive market? We've been kind of dealing with that and got one under contract. That we were able to kind of problem solve around. She needed more time just to kind of figure out what she was going to do. Now, luckily, she called us 2 weeks later and said, "Hey, I found something," which surprised me. But we were able to kind of work it out, and we're working on another situation like that now, where they're kind of just figuring out, okay, we want to sell, we just don't know where we're going to go. So just helping them through that, giving them options. Definitely one of the ones that are sticking out, and one's the one you're going to have to be having that conversation quite often.
Yeah. So, and if anybody else has, man, I've been, if you guys have objections that you guys are hearing, that when you're on the phone or you're texting or whatever, and you have some things that are popping up that you're not used to, or maybe it's something that is not on the list that I kind of came up with and stuff like that we were talking about, definitely throw it in the chat. And we love to, kind of call that out, talk about it, or even do a scenario on it next week when we do some videos and stuff. So let us know if you are hearing objections that maybe we didn't include in that list. But let's get into a little bit of, so why did these objections happen? I mean, we talked a little bit about the tone of kind of what's going on and things, but really what it comes back to, when anybody's going to object to things, it's because there's Ronnie used a perfect word for it. There's some kind of insecurity in that. It's what's going to happen next. Kind of, they're afraid. They're scared of what's going to happen. Can I trust this person? Trust is a big thing of why, this person send me a mailer, I'm on the phone, they're going to come look at my house tomorrow. Like, why can I trust them? So there's a lot of fear that's going on. Also, they're embarrassed. A lot of times people are in these situations where they're embarrassed by kind of the situation that they are in. They maybe are embarrassed by their house, by the way it looks, by the way it smells, by the all the repairs that need to happen. They're embarrassed by the financial burden, that financial situation that they're in. A lot of times you're kind of the last hope. You're kind of figuring out, hey, what's, they're looking for something. They need help in some way. They're embarrassed by that because they have to reach out to you, and it's that kind of the last resort thing. And then, another thing too, is that they're uncertain of the process. They don't know what's going to happen next. They want to make sure that everything's going to be okay. They want to know that, like, oh, okay, if I talk to Ronnie and he gives me an offer, and then what does it mean when he's going to send me a contract? Sorry, they just started to mow right outside. I'm going to switch rooms up here real quick.
It's okay. I couldn't hear it, so it's all good.
So sorry, I'm going to hear it. It's going to be in my ear the whole time. So sorry about that. So now they'll probably be mowing out back too, but oh well. Yeah. So I mean, there's different scenarios. They could be uncertain of the process of what's going on. They want to know what's going to happen next, what makes sense and things. So Ronnie, when we're talking about that, of just kind of the fear that people hear, or the fear that people have, the embarrassment, the uncertainty of the process. let's talk about some of that. Let's talk about the fear that, when people give you a call and they're just uncertain, or they're afraid of what it's going to do. They're afraid to let you in the house because you need to do a walkthrough. You need to get pictures. They're afraid that you're going to rip them off. How do you deal with that? How do you talk people through that?
So really, it's important to set the stage for their expectations and frame exactly what's going to happen. It's almost like a little Candyland map where you need to kind of explain, hey, this is our process. We've seen this a bunch of times, letting them know, just like our TV commercial says, whether, in a complete teardown or $1 million home, we've seen it all. And so there's nothing that letting them know that you can be neutral and non-judgmental about whatever it is you see or whatever it is they tell you, that you're able to hear that information and be objective about what you hear. I've had people say, no, I have to clean up. I have to get everything ready. And I'm just like, look, I understand what you want to do, but I'm really here to look at the structure. Understand that the cosmetics and stuff like that, those things can change, but I want to really just see the bones of what's going on. And then just let them know that you're comfortable with their mess, or whatever they perceive as mess, and just walking them through that again, but framing, hey, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a couple of pictures here. We're just going to walk through. It should only take, 6 or 7 minutes for me to kind of do that. Might ask a couple of questions, but again, framing sets the expectation, so they know exactly what's going on. You put them on the same, and then again, you guys are walking through this process together. I did this with the property on just a little south of downtown. She called me saying, hey, I'm ready to sell right now, but I don't know what I'm doing. I've never done this before. And I'm really nervous because this really isn't my house. It's just, it's kind of weird, but we set the expectation, framed it, and she was perfect, fine, and ready to sign. As soon as we got finished with the walkthrough, she said, this is exactly everything you said. I said, that's exactly right. We want it to be that way in order to do what? Build that trust so that we can continue to walk this thing home.
Yeah. And that's exactly what you want. That's the comment that you want to hear. Number one is like, hey, thank you so much. You like the gratitude is always amazing in the situations where you're helping the sellers out. But when they say like, hey, you did exactly what you were going to do. It went as smooth as you said it was going to be. That's what you want to hear. That's what it really comes down to. And Ronnie, I want to kind of reiterate this too, because I think you do an amazing job of this. And I don't want to just kind of gloss over it, but when you're setting the stage and you're talking about things like that, of setting time frames in there as well. Like, hey, I'm gonna need to come walk through your house. It's gonna take about 6 or 7 minutes. I'm gonna send you the contract. If you need me to go through it with you, I would be more than happy to. It'll probably take about 10 to 15 minutes to go through the contract and make sure you understand things. Oh, okay, we're going to send it to the title company now. The title company is going to need about a week to make sure everything's clear. It could happen sooner, and as soon as it's clear, we can go ahead and close. And then just that time frame too of like, when can you close? What makes the most sense to you? I'm ready to pay you when you can, or when I can, or when title is ready. But how much time do you need? Let's talk about your time frame too. So just really framing things up to figure out that time frame, setting the stage that way. I think that goes a long way. So I think you do a great job of that. So, and how do you? Let's just talk about that a little bit of just like how the difference of like, hey, I need to come on a walkthrough versus, hey, I need to come do a walkthrough and it's going to take about 6 or 7 minutes.
Yeah. So, there's definitely a big difference in that. Hey, I need to do a walkthrough. Seller doesn't know exactly what that is and what that means. But when you're giving that interest and also exit strategy, they have an expectation. Okay, this is what it's going to take, and it makes them feel safe. There was a property down in Greenwood. I called the lady. She's like, "Well, I got my kids here, and they're because everyone's doing virtual learning right now. So it's little kids running around in Pampers and stuff." I said, "Hey, this is how long it's going to take. It's going to be just fine." And she was like, "Wow, like this is." You really said what you were going to do. I said, no, that's exactly what it's going to be. I said, I literally was going to be 6 minutes. I just needed 2 pictures of each room. I saw everything I needed to see, stepped over a couple of cats and some poop, and but I act like I didn't see it. And it's just, that's fine, because my kids do that. Finding that level of connection and just being able to do that. It's very important for the seller to be able to see the end. So as you're talking with them, it's, when you're thinking about exit strategies to sell a house, you also need to be helping the seller understand the exit strategy of what the end of this is going to look like. Help them see the end, help them see the finish line. So the more you're talking about that, and giving them expectations, it makes it easier for them to kind of walk through. Yeah, you want to lead them, but you also want to just say, hey, this is the end goal. This is what's going to look like, and then just kind of walk it back. So you're kind of rehearsed it in their head, rehearsed it in their mind, and then you're just kind of playing out what you already rehearsed. And so again, it builds confidence and trust.
Yeah. So I think, and so as we go through this, so I'm going to kind of lean on two of my favorite people when it comes to negotiation, when it comes to talking to sellers, when it comes to any of that stuff. I've been through some training from both of them. We've been through some training with both of them. They're both amazing. And I want to talk about two things today. One of them is empathy, how to be empathetic to them. Ronnie just said the key right there, like, hey, it's okay if your kids are running around. That's what my kids do. Being empathetic, being understanding of where they're coming from. So I think Chris Voss does an amazing job of talking about empathy, tactical empathy. He does an amazing job. So Chris Voss, you haven't read any of his stuff or watched any of his videos, Never Split the Difference is his book. I actually get a chance to listen to him. I get to sit through a 3-hour training with him next week. I am super excited. But we're gonna dig into some empathy stuff here in a second. But I think he does an amazing job of that. And then another one that I think the other thing I want to talk about today is going negative. I think an amazing person that does a great job of teaching this, kind of going through this, is Mr. John Martinez. Does a great job of kind of helping you understand, like, hey, what does going negative mean? What does that mean for your seller, for you? It's not a negative thing. It's it's kind of a mind frame of how you can kind of start putting stuff together and stuff. So Ronnie, let's dig into this, because you just mentioned it, like, hey, it's okay. Your kids are running around. My kids are running around too. Your kids are way better behaved than my kids. So, and that's coming into, making sure that you are being empathetic to their situation, empathetic to what they're going through. They're embarrassed by their situation. They're afraid. They're uncertain. And being empathetic to them, making sure that they know you are okay with their situation, but you're also making them feel okay with the whole process.
Right.
So when we're talking about being empathetic, understanding where they're coming from, Ronnie, when you're in the field and you have those situations where sometimes I know, it's almost like, you want to cry with them, or you want to pray with them, you want to do all kinds of things. So understanding their situation, of how important that is, and how important it is to be empathetic and not just a salesman when it comes to talking to sellers.
Yeah. So again, this is about connection and building trust. You have to be able to do that. They're calling you for a reason. There's a problem. Is it a house problem? Is it a money problem? Is it a relational divorce problem? Whatever that is, you have to be able to, again, hear that information and be objective, and also mirror them. Where are they at, in their pace and how they're talking to you? And it's really important too, having that pace of conversation. Chris Voss talked about this, changing the speed, and get into your DJ FM voice, changing those things, because we're talking about very serious subject matters. Letting them know, like, we're walking through your property. You walk through your property. Okay, yeah, we see the poop, we see all of that, but getting into their why. That why matters, and helping them connect, the dots to what's going on with this house. And once they understand that you are on the same page with them, everything else kind of becomes more of a breeze. As I'm walking through these properties with kids and crazy and cats and things like that, I'm able to kind of point out, hey, different things about the house, but also to compliment things that's going on, about the house, helping them and reassuring them with good things that I also see about the house, just to help them feel, more confident and less embarrassed as we're walking through this problem with them. Again, because you want them to see this as problem solving together, getting that empathy, connecting with them, making sure that they understand, that you understand. I've been through a divorce too. I understand, that this is the last piece of things that's holding you guys together. You want to just kind of get rid of it. Let them know, hey, we're on the same page, being able to do that, just mirroring where they're at. And positioning yourself as a solutionist is very, very key with that empathy.
Yeah, and I think a big thing, these objections are going to come out. You're going to hear all these, these objections or these things that are going to pop up, and why they're afraid to say yes right away. All those things, they're going to come up. Being empathetic, understanding where they're coming from, is going to help you understand, hey, why they want more money. Okay, well, why is it that they want more money? They need to talk about it with their son or daughter or grandma. Okay, that's understandable. Where is that coming from? Like, why can't they make the decision? Why somebody else? Are they not really the one that is on the title, or whatever it may be? So understanding some of those deal killers, those objections, being empathetic to them, understanding where they're coming from is going to help you get past those objections and really kind of dig in and be that problem solver that they really need. I think one of the things that when I think of being empathetic and talking to sellers, especially when it comes to their objections, I think one of the things that stands out to me, and I think is very important, is to make sure anything that you're doing, you're making them feel okay with how it's coming out. There's going to be things that you're going to say that they're not going to be okay with. How do you come back from that? So the biggest monkey or biggest elephant in the room is your offer. They're not going to like your offer. They're going to want more money. They're going to expect more money. So do you just throw it out there of like, oh, you want $100,000? I'm going to give you 60. That's not how they kind of go. You need to soften the blow. You need to be sure they're okay with what it is. You can get to that point where they're almost begging you of like, hey, I understand it's going to be low. Go ahead and give it to me. It's okay. I understand. So those things of like, hey, Ronnie, I know you want $100,000. I'm not going to be able to get you that much. I'm a little bit embarrassed by what my offer really is. Let me explain to you why it is this, but maybe you'll understand. And I know I don't want you to get mad at me. I want you to be okay with this, but let me just explain to you a little bit and hopefully we can come to an understanding and stuff. But you get to the point where they're eventually they're going to be like, just give me the offer. It's okay. I understand. You're not happy with it. Just give it to me. You can get to that point by being empathetic, making sure they're okay and stuff. So, next one is I think that we kind of talk about when it comes to overcoming objections. And I know Ronnie used this phrase a lot, and you've gone through multiple trainings on this and stuff like that. But going negative. So when people hear that of like just go negative, I feel like that just like you're being that negative person in the room. You're insulting them. You're just that's not what that means. Though. So when you say you're going negative, what does that mean, and how does that come about when you're working with objections from sellers?
First of all, no is a good thing. No is the beginning of all negotiations. And so if you've done a good job as far as connecting, you kind of understand and ask those questions. Hey, what's going on in the neighborhood? Kind of helping the seller frame. You've done the walkthrough. You guys you all have the same information together about the condition of the house and what's really going on. Your first offer is not normally going to be your highest offer. It's when you're talking to the seller, like, look, I understand all of these different things are going on, but and I don't know that you can take this offer. But this is where my offer is, and I'm giving you permission to tell me no. What do you think about the offer of where that number is? That's usually how I'm framing that. I'm going negative. I'm letting them know that this is going to be conservative. You probably won't be able to take it, but based on the conditions, this is what I can do in order to help you reach whatever that, problem point was that we had previously discussed, 2 phone calls ago on the initial phone call. So you've framed, you've armed, you've given them permission to tell you no, and then you've offered. Usually, what I see literally 90% of the time is, wow, that is a lot lower than what I was thinking. But as opposed to all of the cuss words and, oh my God, blah, 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 blah. But again, because I'm a people pleaser. I'm guilty of that. I love hearing yes. And, when you're in this business and, you like hearing yes, you want to serve people, using this tool of going negative almost serves me and them well, because you have prepped them, and it softens that no. It's not your hard no that's offensive and it leaves you crying and hate yourself in your job. It's not like so. So you definitely want to use this tool going negative, giving them permission to say no first, to your offer. It helps you again problem solve, because now we can figure out what the real number is.
Yeah. No, that's great stuff. And like I said, kind of before, is that I think John Martinez does a great job of phrasing this. He really helped me kind of understand this a little bit. And one of the ways that he put it, and I really, really like it, is no matter where your seller is, be kind of one step on the negative side of them. So even when they are ready to, you think that they're ready to make the deal, you say, hey, instead of saying, hey, are you ready to sign the contract? Because all of a sudden you're in a pressure situation. You're kind of putting them on the spot to say yes. And instead of doing that, when you think they're ready to sign that contract, instead of saying, hey, are you ready to go ahead and sign this? You do it. Just say, are it doesn't sound like you're 100% ready to make this decision. Right away, you're letting them make that decision. You're letting them kind of be in the driver's seat of that and say, no, I'm ready. Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it now, instead of you kind of pressuring that. So by pulling in a way of basically pulling them more towards the no instead of pushing them towards the yes, it's going to help you kind of basically help them take the ownership of what's going to happen next. And kind of you're going to help them lead to those decisions. So I think it's a really good thing. And I'll just kind of point out, I just re-listened to John Martinez's stuff this morning, and he kind of put it as, if you look at like kind of the spectrum of where a sale comes from, there's basically like 5 stages. So there's a no sale, there's a negative, there's somebody that's neutral, there's somebody that's positive, and there's somebody that's ready for that sale. It's going to be a sold. So by kind of, when you look at it in the 5 steps, if you can be one step behind kind of where they are, so a really good example of that positive one, where they're like, oh yeah, hey, I think I'm going to work with you. I think it sounds great. Of just being like, are you? Is there anything I can do? Like, are you okay? Like, does it make sense for us to do this? That's when you're really going to kind of, like I said, pull them back towards the no instead of pushing them towards the yes. I think is really going to help you. When they're already in that negative, when that negative phrase of like, oh, you can't give me what I need, and how are you going to help me? Those types of things. You're like, you know what? I might not be able to. Maybe I'm not the right person for you. I think, maybe it's probably not even worth, it's the 5 minutes of your time that I need. It's probably not even worth that. Let's go ahead and just jump off the phone right now. You don't have to worry about it. You're probably not going to like my offer. It's okay. What are they going to? They're not going to be like, okay, yeah, talk to you tomorrow. No, it's going to be like, no, well, I called you. I want to talk to you. I want to hear what you have to say. So all of a sudden they're right back in that neutral phase where you're like, they're coming to you and stuff. So that going negative, staying behind where they are, it's a very emotional business. So when they start getting positive, when they start getting that, when you get excited and you start kind of, getting all super positive and stuff too, remember that's putting a little bit more pressure on them. So if you can reel it back in a little bit, you're going to be able to kind of see them through, let them make the decisions on their own, take ownership of that. It's going to help get that sale at the end. So, Ronnie, we are almost out of time for today. Like I said, what Ronnie and I are going to do, since we're not going to be able to go live next week, we're going to come up with some scenarios. So these objections that we kind of came up with this list of today, we're going to kind of go through those. We're going to do a little role playing, a little problem solving, stuff like that. You'll hear how Ronnie and I kind of handle some of these situations. We kind of roll through those. We'll put those out for you guys next week. So hopefully those work for you. Like I said, if you guys have any objections that we didn't include on the list, or that is a new one to you and you don't know how to handle, let us know. Definitely shoot us an email at ronnie@simplequarters.com or brian@simplewholesaling.com. Let us know how we can help you in any way. And with that, Ronnie, what else you got, man? What's got some words of wisdom for us in the last minute before we get out of here?
Yeah. I want to make sure that you guys just dig deep and try and keep calling. I understand that it's a very competitive market out here, but keep trying, keep sending mailers, keep writing letters, just keep cold calling, just keep at it. Your deal is out there, and if you get some in Indianapolis, you're having trouble, give me a call, text, email, smoke signals, send a bird, crow, whatever you got to do. I'll even take a message in a bottle, so we can kind of problem solve through that. But this is a great time to be able to get your first deal, and I would love to help you get through that.
Yeah. So thanks a lot for the comments, guys. Really appreciate it. I'm glad we can help you guys out in any way. Like I said, don't hesitate to reach out. So we'll have those objection videos for you guys next week. Hopefully they'll help you out as well. But just remember too, just through any of this stuff, when you're getting objections, a no is you want either a yes or a no. All that stuff in between is the stuff that scares you. So don't worry about the no's. They're going to be okay. At least you can take them off their list, or you can work from them from there. So with that, that's a great webinar Wednesday, and we'll see you guys live in 2 weeks, but we'll have some videos for you next week. Take care.